Hello, welcome to Honest Review. I'm your host, Honest Brit, and you guessed it, in today's video we'll be reviewing Enlisted. I'll be giving you some pros, cons, and of course an introduction to what the game is and whether or not you should check it out or not. So let's get straight into it. So what is Enlisted? Enlisted is a World War II FPS shooter which is designed to base around realism but not going too far hardcore to the extent that you're pulling out your hair halfway through because you're getting shredded by everything. And in a sense it brings the encompasses of what Battlefield 1942 did so well. If you know what Battlefield 1942 was, it was a game based around the whole idea of the World War II sort of shooter franchise of bringing in vehicles and everything like that. You were yourself a player and you had an AI squad, and your aim was to complete the objectives and fight it out. And Enlisted in itself allows you to do that, but it takes it a lot further now, because with the advancements in AI control and so forth, you're able to command an AI squad into battle, take capture points. So in a sense, if you were to look at Enlisted from the offset, you could see it as Call of Duty or Battlefield with AI squads. But there are some issues with it, and I will go over those, which everyone I think who's played the game will tell you can get very, very annoying. But I'm going to start off with the pros, because I'm not going to be an old fart and just sit here and complain about a game which is free. Bear that in mind, it's completely free, and that's going to lead on to my first point. The game's free, guys. So you know you got to pay 40 quid for Call of Duty when they bring out a new game which is completely carbon copy of the first. It just has different weapons, and yeah. Well, Enlisted's free. And you get the same with Battlefield. Increasingly less realistic Battlefield's coming out every time. They just find a new way to piss us off more, I would argue. Whereas Enlisted has really just taken over that whole mantle of bringing us a game we, the audience, want to play. And I would go as far as to say, controversially, it has set itself to be one of the best free-to-play games you can find out there right now. Because of course we don't know what's going to happen in a couple of months' time. We could see a completely brand new game on the market. And well, yeah. So going on the pros. So first one, it's free. So why shouldn't you be checking it out? I know you may be worried about the processing system, but it's not so much to worry about, because you're not going to be wasting your money, because at the end of the day it is a free game, and well, it's worth checking out. 2, well, it is what you want from a World War II shooter. What Battlefield 5 should have been is what I've sort of gathered from what people have said. It does. You can sit there and play it for hours and hours on end and still not get bored. And it just encompasses what you want from a sort of, well, modernized version of Battlefield 1942. When I say modernized, I don't mean the era, I just mean the mechanics and the engines in place, because Enlisted does do a lot of mechanics really well, which is sort of playing on the whole modernized engine that it has on offer. Number 3, it has historical units, so you can play the 1st Infantry Division, the 82nd Airborne. I can't remember the armored unit. You got the I can't. You see, there's so many units. Right now they have it. It's very hard to memorize them all, which I'm sure you're all very aware. Most of these like World War II games you find out there just sort of focuses around one unit in itself, and that's it. You have no real choice. But Enlisted, I find, is you can build your composition for your like army. As per se, it is only 4 squads. If you get premium, it's double that, but it's still, in the sense, you can build your own composition for your army. So for example, my army is based around, I have 1 airborne squad, 1 infantry squad, a radio operator and a tank. So each of those elements have a different purpose. So my assault squad is sort of my rough guys. They're the guys who are going to go and take that objective, push the point, and really cause some havoc to the enemy. Infantry, similar principle, push up, but in sense to be less a close quarters unit, as to sort of, they're more of the combined operations task force, you could argue, because they're going to push up to the point, but it's their role, they're going to be holding that point more than arguably the assault team, which is the 82nd Airborne, because M3 grease guns, so they're going to be running around gunning down anything that's coming to attack the point using counter-offensives, where the infantry mainly, well the 29th Infantry Division as they are called in the game, even though it is a squad, is going to mainly be on that objective, suppressing machine guns, holding the point, really taking full advantage of their numbers because it's a 9-man squad. The radio operator, it calls in artillery strikes, so sort of self-explanatory. So that role in a sense is you're going to be providing support for an attack on the point, counter barrages to the enemy assault, finding ways to sort of hinder the enemy advance. So for example, I'll give you a prime example where the artillery operator really does come into it. So you have the game mode invasion where you have to hold a point and you have to, of course, let it sort of like rush, where you hold the point, you have to defend the point and wait until it's completely done, and then you move on to the next point. And so what you do is, so with the artillery operator, what will happen is once you guide, what you want to do with him is first you obviously want to shell the point to make sure it's clear. So you have the maps, you know you're not meant to shell your friendlies. I would never recommend that, because that's just grief and you get roasted for it. I'm sorry, you would get roasted for it. How can you mix up the colours? It's sort of standard now for blue to be seen as friendly and red to be seen as enemy. It's like sort of standard across the industry, so I really don't get how you can manage it. But anyway, back to my point. So pretty much when the artillery operator is going to be there to obviously attack the point, but also when you have the point, to literally hinder the enemy's counter-attacks, because they will be trying to attack the point again. This is what I really like about Invasion. It isn't just a case of one side is the defenders, one side is the attackers. You can do both at the same time, because in a sense the defenders can play an attacking role. If they really want to be aggressive and keep you in the spawn, they can do, whereas you as the attackers can play quite a defensive role, because, well, I say it's very hard for attackers to play in a defensive role. It sort of ruins the whole point of the game mode. But I've seen attackers literally line up along the hill. In the footage that you'll see, we just lined up in the hill and kept on calling artillery strikes and then just pushed up. And that's sort of the approach of a defender would take, because defenders, they don't just hold ground. It is sort of counterproductive for a defender, because if you hold the same ground over a period of time, what happens if that attack finally succeeds? You lose ground. So the point of defense is to hinder the attackers, so then you can launch a counter offensive, gain more ground, so then you're defending a new point, they attack again, you counter that, you move forward. So if you lose points, you're still gaining ground and you're not losing it, because it's a quarter. In Hollywood, it does portray a defense as being just a static line that never ever moves, but a defensive line is a very, very mobile and flexible thing that moves up and moves back. Because a defensive line in itself, if anyone who stands still in a battlefield is going to get shredded. I'm sorry, it's just a known fact. If everything's flying off, you're going to be constantly moving. If you're not in cover, then you're up the creek. And that's the whole purpose of defensive line. If it's static, it's a tactical fallacy in itself, because it's just going to get blown up. So yeah, so we're on our we're on our second point. So yeah, so about the radio operators, and yeah, it's there's not really much more to say. I went off on one, but that's the whole point about this game. It really does play on what you want. And finally, moving on to the tank. So the tank crew is sort of I sort of use them for my anti-tank capabilities. Well, I was also using them for my anti-infantry, because I've gone for the M8 Scott. So if you're unaware what the M8 Scott can offer you, it offers a howitzer and an anti-tank capability. So it's very good at dealing with tanks, while also being very good at dealing with infantry. So from afar, you can be quite a deadly killing machine. You do have to bear in mind your drivers are exposed, so you will get popped off. But yeah, he really cares. It's a howitzer, it's going to shred everything if it gets in its way. You just have to hope you kill them before they kill you. Yeah. Its armour is slightly weaker than the Stuarts, if I remember correctly. So you don't want to be going up against a Panzer III unless you know you're going to be able to take it out. Which you can do. I've tried it and I've managed to twice. So there you go. Because you've got Panzer IIIs and Panzer IVs, and they can wind you up. Rest assured, they will wind you up. And that's going to lead on to my cons slightly. So we'll continue on. So my final, I think my third pro, because I included, I said historical units and talked about so my third pro is, well, it's got That's a good one, isn't it? Let's think about this, guys. I say ballistics. Yeah, ballistics. In this game, it isn't about being Rambo. It's more about being careful and working well with your unit, knowing when to attack, utilizing suppression, utilizing other forms of support, not just running right in there. And the way that leads into realistic ballistics is it sort of forces you to use support, because if you get shot in the upper body, you're knocked down and then you're up the creek because someone will come along and take you out. It's not about individual heroes in this game. It's about really working together to push the point, and that can make the difference in games. And that's why ballistics works really well, because it really forces you to work as a team, because you realize you can't do it all by yourself. You have to work together. And so so maybe I'll put in a fourth point saying about how it really does promote combined arms operations. So you have aircraft as well, but the point is the pilot relies on infantry to spot for him. He isn't just going to be able to do it himself. He has to rely on the infantry to spot for him. So in a sense, there's a communication aspect. I've flown before with, I've got the one, I can't remember what it's called, but it's got the rockets. You guys will have to tell me it. But I've always asked infantry to spot for me, to point out armoured targets for me to take out, so that way I can get a proper run in. And I'm very much reliant on my infantry to spot for me, as they are reliant on me to provide support for their attack. It's the same with the armour. I remember there was a Stuart who was in a tough handle, so I literally ran up to attack, kept on spotting the tank, and the Stuart just kept on firing at it, and I kept on, every time this tank moved, I respotted for the Stuart. And that's the purpose. It really does promote a combined arms operation feel, and there's not a lot of toxicity because of it. Because if you badmouth one of the people, you don't necessarily know if they're going to be the guy who's going to be driving the tank, providing the support for the next objective. You just get on with it. You get so immersed in it, and you're just like, alright then, getting on with it. So alright, let's talk about the bit that everyone loves without realising it, the cons. So I'm going to be honest, I know I talked about the squad system. It's fun, but there are some issues with it. I don't really like the whole premium concept. I'll let you into some secret why. You pay premium and you get 8 squads out of it. And so what the 8 squads is you can have like about 8 squads. So in theory, what someone can do is they could unlock all the tank units and have all those tanks to choose from. But then that's just an endless tank spam, because if this one guy's very good with tanks, it's not necessarily making it impactful if you take out one tank, which is not necessarily what I like. I think there are limits on vehicles, but I don't know how that transcribes across the premium, so maybe you guys can tell me. And it does feel very pay to win in areas, but it is a free to play game, so they have to make money somehow. I suppose the only concept I would say would be a good idea is maybe ad space. Who knows, put some ads in there, that could work out, or promote the in-game currency more. But I guess maybe let people get a single player expansion, maybe get people to pay for a single player expansion. I would love that. I'm sure in the community would, like a single player expansion where you build your squad like you've done in multiplayer, but instead you're fighting over a single player campaign with other AI units, with an objective story based campaign throughout World War II, and you can choose your faction and you just get on with it. I'd really like to see that, and I'll be willing to pay a tenner for that, because that's endless more enjoyment, and for the price of the game. Like, people don't get annoyed by pay to win. I found this, it's not necessarily the aspect of having to pay for stuff in game out, but let me reword that. People having to play for free to play games isn't an annoying aspect. It's that you have to pay to get better, which annoys people, because it annoys me. I want to be able to focus on my skills in game, enjoy myself without knowing there's not going to be a guy with one shotgun that's just going to wipe my entire squad out in the space of time. And it is not to that level, and I don't know how they've done it, but it could if the rate they're going with the pay to win sort of system, with what they're offering on premium and what other stuff you get, is continued. And I just don't like it. I know everyone's going to have other opinions, so leave me a comment down below what you feel about that, but that's sort of my issue. Number 2 con. Well, the Allies were known for their quantity. The Germans were known for their quality, and I don't think this game plays well into that. I think in a sense in certain areas it does it really well, but in another way they don't, because there's certain areas you say to yourself, but that wouldn't have been the case. Like a Panzer III going toe to toe with one Sherman is probably the rarest occurrence you've ever heard of. Even if, say, there was an ambush, there would have been at least 2 Shermans to partner up against the Panzer III, because in a sense the Sherman could penetrate a Panzer III's armour. Excuse me, sorry guys. But here's the but part. They would always have 2 Shermans, because it's a tactical fallacy not. Sorry guys. Oh, wow. But anyway, yeah, quality over quantity comes to mind. And it really, really is important to me that if we are making a realistic World War II game, they really evaluate how they are going to transcribe that across to a game. Like, I know for example the Allies wouldn't just... Well, no, because necessarily the Allies never did necessarily steamroll the Germans. The only reason why the Germans really lost World War II, anyone argues, is just because they had a massive amount of numbers of equipment and the Allies just steamrolled the Americans, came to save the day. No, that's because Hitler never actually listened to the people who actually knew what they were doing. He always overruled orders that would have saved the German army countless amounts of resources. And yeah, I just don't feel right now they've got the right balance between the Germans and the Allies in certain games, because it feels quite bipolar. One minute you'll be winning games, next one you'll be losing, which I find pretty good. It's sort of like, how are they going to transcribe that? I'd like to see that, because right now, I know, this is my opinion, I do feel like it doesn't feel like a German versus it doesn't feel like playing as the Allies. You are the Allies, if you know what I mean. It's hard to describe it, but I don't really like that aspect. Number 3, I can't really enjoy the Russian campaign. It's not fun for me. I'm being honest with you. The Russian one is not the best one. It's just because I don't feel like they've touched on battlefields like I would enjoy. I suppose the Battle of Moscow field is quite good, like the one I played. But when I was in it, it was quite frustrating. And it just didn't... I didn't get the same response as I felt to the Allied campaign. Like the do it or die emotional response. It just felt... yeah, I don't know why. So, yeah, it's just like... I don't know how to describe it. I just don't really enjoy the Russian campaign. This might be because they haven't fleshed out the Russians as much just yet. Even though this is Gaijin, who are famous for making the Yak-2 the most overpowered plane in War Thunder, from my younger brother's accounts, so... I don't know guys, you tell me. What are Gaijin up to this time? Dun dun dun! Oh, sorry guys, that's pretty awful. Sorry. Alright. Oh. Which one are we on? So we done realism, we done pay to win, we done, yep, so we're on our 4th one and final one. I probably should write something down, but oh well. So my 4th con. My 4th and final con. It's the optimization, I'd say. I do get choppiness in game, I have found that, and I've got an RTX 2060 graphics card. I don't know whether it's my internet or not, but it does feel like it can be quite choppy at times, where you get like a network connection error, which will really just wind you up. Because I know like people say network errors are a part of online free-to-play games, but it does seem to happen on a daily basis. And my internet is I do get quite a strong connection quite a lot of the time. So I don't know, are you having that issue? It's worth telling me, because I don't know. I don't know, maybe not. You tell me guys. It's worth deciding this for ourselves, isn't it? But I think I'm going to end it off here guys. So be sure to like, subscribe, and of course leave a comment down below about what you've liked about today's first installment of my honest review series. So this will be a weekly video series of where I'll be reviewing games honestly, giving you a sort of in-depth analysis of how I feel this game's going and what these games have on offer. And as we slowly progress, hopefully I will get better at the whole commentating thing. This is my first time doing something like this properly. So I'll see you next time guys. I've been Honest Brit. You've been watching my honest review series. My honest review series. I'll see you next time guys. Thank you very much. Bye now.